Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Allen vs. Farrow. And this HBO Max series, this HBO series focusing on the long-term case and accusations that are lodged against Woody Allen by Mia Farrow and Dylan Farrow, who was Woody Allen's adopted daughter, who accuses him of sexually molesting her when she was 7 years old. This is an interesting film, and there's a lot of context around this because you look at, it's interesting, if you go through Rotten Tomatoes right now, like, all of the viewer ratings are either 5 out of 5 that this was amazing series that goes out and proves this injustice, or they're half a star calling this a complete hatchet job with absolutely no evidence, and like looking at like the leftist media trying to spin this and just destroy Woody Allen. And it's so interesting thinking about this complete just valley, this like cavern between these two sides and perspectives on this series. And even on IMDb, this is like sitting at a 4.9, but then you look at the critics rating, it's in like the 80s on Rotten Tomatoes, which obviously those are proportions, it's not an actual score. But you're thinking about this, it's so divisive. And these 4 episodes, what I'm going to try to do is at least talk about from a film a filming perspective and how they present this argument in this case. It does a really fine job of looking at the cultural complexities and landscape that all of this happened in, because you see who Woody Allen is, how Woody Allen is being interviewed and people vouching for him, and then later, especially towards the very end of the series, how these actors are refusing to work with him anymore after all of this is coming to light. And it's interesting because, like, I don't know Woody Allen, nor do I know any of the Farrows. I'm sitting here watching this documentary, but from what I can see is, like, it's interesting because Woody Allen has written over 70, like 80 films he has written and have turned into films. And that, like, some of his love interests are like teenage girls. And it's weird. Dude's like 40-something in some of these films, 50-something in some of these films, and he's casting himself against teenage girls. And, you know, he wound up marrying his stepdaughter and, like, cheating on Mia Farrow with her own, like, adopted daughter. And there's a lot of things that Woody Allen has done to make it clear, like, he is not, like, the most above ground, like, good guy here. So it's interesting how people are taking this approach that this is a complete hatchet job and these are lies, and, like, it's not like he hasn't done bad things before. And it's interesting because they bring the perspective of Roman Polanski in as well, that context, because, like, Roman Polanski hasn't been able to come back to America because he had sex with a 13-year-old, and it was like, but it was consensual. I'm like, it's not consensual when a girl is 13 years old and you're an adult. It's not how it works. And you have these cultural complexities and these perspectives added into this film. Now, I'm not going to beat around the bush the fact that, like, this whole entire film is made by the Farrow family. Like, there's a very specific reason why they made this series, and it's supposed to be going after Woody Allen for what he did to Dylan Farrow. And based off of what this documentary presents, because you have Mia Farrow's perspective, you have a lot of their children's perspectives, and you have these videos of Dylan describing the assaults, and it's hard to watch, and as it should be, and it's really unnerving that you have this young girl talking about these things, and it goes back and forth presenting, like, the perspective that Woody Allen had was, like, this young girl was coached. He did nothing but love her, but they have these moments of people witnessing him touching her inappropriately or walking in on her doing inappropriate stuff, or having this video where Dylan's describing what has happened to her, that Woody has done to her. And it's unnerving to listen to and to watch. And like I said, it should be, because these things aren't okay. And you have these accusations, and this documentary obviously is very biased. It's a very, very one-sided perspective on this. I know they take, like, excerpts from his memoirs, but, like, you know, having excerpts from somebody's memoir and you picking specifically what you want to put in it isn't really showing the other side. But here's the thing. You don't necessarily need his side of this story with some of the evidence that they present in here. And yes, you can make the argument that she was coached, and, like, is a 7-year-old's testimony on this supposed to be taken seriously? And I'm not going to go into that and try to argue with that. And the documentary posted at the end of each of these episodes, at the very end, that Woody Allen and his wife, Suni, and Moses, another one of the Farrows who spoke out that, like, Mia was an unsuitable parent, this documentary says that they refuse to be a part of it. But then you have some of them coming out, it's like, I was never asked to be in this. And who do you believe? And that's the tricky thing. And you as a viewer, you're going to have to make that decision. And I sat here watching this series and thinking about, even if you take a step back from the actual focus of this, which is this abuse, this is such an interesting snapshot of our society at this point. It's like everything in our society is so divisive, and it's either you have to accept what victims say 100% without questioning, or you just victim blame. And that's kind of where we're at. And this documentary has shown exactly that, because that's exactly what's going on here. It's either gung-ho, this is like an earth-shattering just expose on Woody Allen and the horrible things that he did to his own adopted daughter, or what a horrible hatchet job this is trying to take out Woody Allen. And it's so interesting to think about that perspective, that situation that we're all sitting here in with that. And you sit here and you think about it. This is a very intriguing and thought-provoking series that I think everybody should at least take some time to watch, because I think it really captures a really important perspective in our society on victims and their stories and who do you side with. And even if you don't take one of these extreme sides on what this documentary is, I think there's plenty in here to take in and have you think about things. And would I have liked to hear more of, like, the perspectives and what's coming from the other side, which you do get that in the sense that they talk about the police investigations, and they talk about the different kinds of testimony that they have made previously and their perspective. It's very clear what Woody Allen's perspective is on this. Very clear. And I don't think you need to listen to a whole entire episode of Woody Allen talking to get that sense. It's very obvious that he is saying that he didn't do any of these things. And there's some compelling evidence to show that that's not right. But everybody's going to take that evidence with a grain of salt and really think about it from their perspectives. And that's the most thought-provoking and intriguing thing that this documentary is going to do. Now, you're probably sitting here thinking, like, well, Jane didn't even take a side or anything about this. No, I didn't. I kind of wanted to talk about this in terms of the context of it and as a thing to think upon, to ponder, and to encourage you to check this out and not just take these two divisive sides' perspectives on it. Go watch this. Come up with your own feelings about it, process the evidence that they present, and you make your own judgment. I'm very interested to hear what you think, so leave a comment. But from a very trying to be Switzerland neutral standpoint in this situation, these are my thoughts, and that have been running through my head since finishing this series tonight. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some TV. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.